Hello and welcome back to my channel where I will be sharing materials for English lesson, especially for Form 2. And also welcome back to my students from SMK JPB, 2AR, 2AJ and also 2AB. Alright, so for today we will be learning something a bit different than what we usually learned in our English lesson. This is some sort of out of the syllabus kind of things. So for today, as you can see in the slides, we will be learning about our own country, my Malaysia, and it is about the different cultures in Malaysia. You know, cultures as in the food, the people, the celebration. But for today, it will be some sort of an introduction. We will look into just a snippet of the different kind of ethnics and also races in Malaysia. But before we begin, we must know what does it mean when we say race. So race is the classification of human, and it used to be, you know, differentiate by the skin color, the hair type, the face and skull shape, and also genetic ancestry. But nowadays, as the world keep on evolving, skin color and hair type is not to say no longer useful, but it is not the best way to differentiate between human races. And then we will look at ethnicity. Alright, so ethnicity refers to the different socio-cultural characteristic, and ethnicity is determined by mostly linguistic and also cultural affinities, and different ethnic have different beliefs. There are quite a number of ethnicity in Malaysia, but we will not look into them like very deep. We will just be on the surface. Alright, moving on. So this is Peninsular Malaysia. We are here near Penang and also near Perak, and usually or commonly the main races in Peninsula is Malay, Indian and also Chinese. But in Peninsular Malaysia also we have Orang Asli. Orang Asli are the natives in Peninsular Malaysia, and they are generally divided into three major groups, namely the Negrito, Senoi and also Proto-Malay. So most of the time, if we went to, for example, Pahang, Cameron Highland, there's quite a number of indigenous or Orang Asli over there. I've also went to this one indigenous school in Sungai Perak. They spoke a completely different language than us. I cannot understand them, but they do speak Malay as well, so it's okay. Next, moving on, we will look at Sarawak, and just like I have mentioned before, we will only be looking on the surface area, just a little bit on the people, not exactly too deep into it. So Sarawak has more than 40 sub-ethnic groups, and the major ethnics in Sarawak are Iban, Chinese, Malay, Bidayuh, Orang Ulu and also Melanau. So for all these ethnics, most of the time they are located, or most of them lives at certain parts in Sarawak. I am not gonna tell you, that will be your job to look into the different ethnics that are available in Malaysia. Now let us look at Sabah. Right, so there are over 42 ethnic groups all around Sabah, and more than 200 sub-ethnic groups. There's a lot of them, like very lot. Three major ethnics in Sabah are Kadazan Dusun, Bajau, and also Murut. Others also include Kedayan, which refers to Melayu Brunei or Bruneian Malay, Sulu, and Chinese. Alright, so before we move on, I'm gonna tell you a bit about, let us go back to Sarawak first. Alright, so in Sarawak, as I have mentioned, there are quite a number of ethnics and also sub-ethnic groups. So in Sarawak, they have this one we call Dayak people. So the Dayak of Sarawak, it comprises of the Iban, Bijayo, Orang Ulu, and also other tribes like Salako and Lara, and then there's Kayan. These are all the ethnics in Sarawak, excuse me. For example, one ethnic called Punan Bah. So Punan Bah is an ethnic group found in Sarawak, mostly around Bintulu and also in Kalimantan, which is Indonesia. So Punan itself, there are 20 different tribes, but all of them are Punan. So you can imagine the number of ethnics group in Malaysia. And what about Sabah? Alright, so for Sabah, also just like Sarawak, there are quite a number of them, but most of them are, like for example, Kadazan Dusun. Kadazan Dusun it's actually two different ethnic in Kadazan and also Dusun, but they are usually the terms are mainly used to unify the two groups, which also include other subgroups including Murut, Orang Sungai, Rungus, Tidong, Lun Bawang. So you can actually Google search around online and you can find all those different ethnics that are present in Sabah. Alright, moving on to language. So as there are different ethnics and different races in Malaysia, language is also the same. So there are quite a number of language used in Malaysia as well. So what is language? Language is a system of communication and it is used to express ourselves. So the examples of main language is English, Bahasa Melayu or Malay, Mandarin, and Tamil. Next is dialect. Dialect is the variation of the same language. So the same language, for example, Malay, we have different dialects, usually according to the states and also ethnics. So like for example, who are living in Kedah, we have like Kedahan dialect, which is totally different from, for example, Kelantanese dialect or the normal standard Malay. It is the same to Mandarin and also Tamil. Tamil, if I'm not mistaken, there are quite a variation, but not that many are known. And Mandarin, the dialects are affected by the origin from the mainland China. Okay, so for Bahasa Melayu, there are two variation, which is the standard language, or we say Bahasa Baku, and also dialects. So the example of dialects are Kelantanese, Sabahan Malay, Sarawakian Malay, the dialect of people from Negeri Sembilan, Kedahan dialect, Bajau, and also Dusun. Mandarin, this is the 7 commonly known Chinese or Mandarin dialect that are available in Malaysia and also around the world. So most of the time people use Mandarin dialect, Mandarin Chinese dialect, which is some sort of standardized Chinese dialect. And there's others like Cantonese, Wu Chinese, Hokkien, Xiang, Gan, and also Hakka. So these are the people who spoke this dialect: Putonghua, Shanghainese, Xiang, Minnan. And then Tamil. Tamil is actually one of the major languages of the Dravidian language family, and Tamil dialects vary according to both region and also community. So the examples of a Tamil language, the Tamil dialect that I have found online is Tamil Kannada, Tamil Kodagu, Tamil Malayalam, and Tamil. I think maybe you can tell me the difference between all these dialects. Alright, so let us look at how diverse is Malaysia. So this is actually one of the video that I found online, which is quite interesting to see the diversity of our country.
It's one of the most multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multi-religious countries in the world, and I'm thrilled to be back for a third visit.
I'm a Nonya, Chinese, Siamese, and adopted Kalabit.
I'm Chindian and I'm Malaysian.
I'm a Thai Malay Malaysian.
I'm a Malay, Mama, Chinese, and a Malaysian.
We are Kadazan. We are Eurasians.
My dad is Malay and my mom is Chinese.
I'm Malay and Indian.
I'm a Chinese but culturally Filipino.
Out of the 32 million people living in this nation, only about half of them can call themselves
Ethnic Malays!
23%, or 8 million people, are
Ethnic Chinese!
7% are
Ethnic Indians!
and the rest of them are just
Confused!
Malaysia's official religion is Islam, attracting 61% of the population. In fact, ethnic Malays are required to be Muslim by law. The next biggest religion is Buddhism at 20%, then Christianity at 10%, and Hinduism at 6%. This incredible diversity of Malaysia's people is reflected in its cuisine, language, and economy. When looking at its food, Malaysia truly has one of the world's best.
My name is Ahmad, and my favorite thing about KL is the food.
A fusion of indigenous Malay, Chinese, Indonesian, and Indian with lighter touches of Dutch and British, its former rulers for 200 plus years. My favorite 3 dishes in Malaysia are nasi lemak, laksa, and banana leaf. Let's talk about language. Most people here know at least 3 languages fluently.
We like to pick and choose certain words. Hey, Macha, you want makan here or tapao?
That sentence means do you want to eat here or take out, but it has words from 4 languages: Tamil, English, Malay, and Chinese. But if you're traveling to Malaysia, you won't have to worry about learning any new languages because almost everyone here speaks fluent English. Almost as good as the Philippines. I am always very, very impressed. From an economic standpoint, the bustling capital of Kuala Lumpur is one of Asia's fastest growing business hubs, and its skyline is dominated by the tallest twin buildings in the world.
The Petronas Tower.
Do you know how tall they are?
No, I'm not sure.
But once you escape the city life, you'll quickly enter a humble, relaxing, and contrasting lifestyle.
That's why we call diversity! This is why we call Malaysia!
And I am truly in love with this place. I'm Drubinski, and if you like my travel videos, please click subscribe.
Alright, so the first video, remember I mentioned that you can't actually use hair type or your face, the color, your skin color to determine what race you are, because you can see in the first video there are some called Chindian, which usually refers to Chinese Indian, and there's also this one guy mentioned that his father is Malay and his mother is Chinese. So there are what we call interracial thingy going around. So not all people can safely assume which race they are. They are confused. Alright, so moving on. So this is a video of a Samai people, which is one of the an indigenous group in Malaysia as well. So let us take a look.
Pertama kali saya sekolah itu yang saya tahu cakap Melayu. Kalau tak ada, langsung nampak Melayu lari dah. Pasal tak tahu cakap. Memang betul. Nama saya Zulkifli bin Baflan. Saya dilahirkan di kampung Sungai Long. Daerah Kameradan ini kaum Semai. Sini semua Semai punya. Tak ada lain orang. Saya ada 12 orang anak. Mati satu. Ni anak saya ni semua lahir di sini. Hospital tak ada. Di hutan lah. Bidan sendiri. Kita panggil bidan tu, dia datang. Dia buat lahir anak tu. Yalah, sekarang ada semua perlu wang juga. Tapi dulu tak ada keperluan wang. Kehidupan dulu macam kita tanam ubi, makan ubi, ikan sungai. Itu saja. Sekarang dah berubah dah. Kalau tak ada lauk kan, mula-mula kan kita pergi ke sungai. Lepas tu mancing, buat bubu. Lepas tu, hendaklah makan macam daging kan. Daging dalam hutan ni. Dapatlah macam tikus, landak, musang. Kita buat sup, buka dia punya kulit dia. Buat sup dulu kan garam. Semua garam tak ada dengan aji. Itu kehidupan ni. Tapi dulu kesakitan tak ada. Kurang kesakitan. Sekarang ni banyak kesakitan. Orang muda sakit, sini saya pun sakit ni. Nak jalan pun tak boleh, bila nak turun macam ni sakit. Pasal apa? Makanan tu tak ada bercampuran. Cuma makan ubi, ikan sungai, garam pun kurang sikit, tak ada lah. Dulu kan kita makan macam cakap tadi sup, tak ada garam, tak ada aji. Sedap rasa. Sekarang orang nak buat macam tu, tak mau juga, tak sedap rasa. Pakai minyak, pakai itulah. Dulu orang pakai cawat kan, tahu cawat. Nak pakai macam ni tak ada. Pakai cawat juga. Tapi sekarang ni orang nak pakai, rasa gatal. Jamuk banyak, kita takut nanti demam. Masa dulu kan tak ada elektrik, tak sampai. Memang gelap. Pakai api lah, api macam tu bakar. Kalau ada, beli lilin. Dulu ada apa, minyak tanah. Itu yang kita pakai. Binatang buas, kalau kita nampak, kita pasang api buat besar-besar lah. Macam bulu ni kita potong, dia meletup, baru dia lari lah. Macam binatang buas tu, harimau ke gajah, tapi sini tak ada gajah lah. Harimau, ular yang jatuh, lipan ke apa, yang bahaya tu. Macam babi ni, dia lari juga. Cium bau kita, dia lari. Harimau dia tak kacau kita, kita tak kacau dia. Bila kita jumpa, ada dia buat kita pasang api kuat-kuat, dia ambil bulu yang dia meletup lah. Macam senapang, dia lari lah. Dia takut. Dia terlari, kita sumpit aja. Ular tu banyak jenis ular. Yang kecil ada, kita tak nampak. Dia gigit kita. Saya pernah kena. Saya ular yang kecil tu ada panjang ni, dia hijau kan. Dia gigit sini. Bengkak besar lah. Ni sampai ni pun kulit baru juga. Kita carilah macam ada bomo, dia jampi kan. Dia jampi air, kita sapu-sapu, kita rasa kurang sikit lah. Tu pun 1 bulan juga. Nak pergi kedai, saya takut nanti dipotong. Tanda duduk sana, sini duduk senang sikit. Fikiran tenang. Kalau kelumpur banyak, makan pun tak senang. Banyak susah, air pun susah. Mandi pun air panas, tak sedap. Kalau sini ya, pagi pun sejuk, tengah hari pun sejuk, malam pun sejuk, tidur pun senang, tak panas. Tak pakai baju pun boleh, pakai baju pun boleh. Saya tak boleh tahan lah. Air tu yang tak boleh tahan. Nak pakai baju pun tak boleh, buka pakai seluar pendek. Nak mandi pun susah betul lah.
Alright, so what do you think of the Semai people? Interesting, right? They are living in, it was mentioned, they are from Cameron Highland. So Cameron Highland, oh, it's very cold over there. So of course they don't want to live in the city, you know. And the last video is of Orang Asli of Peninsula.
The Orang Asli communities of West Malaysia are the oldest inhabitants of West Malaysia, and in 2010 were numbered at approximately 178,197. They make up about 0.6% of our total population and are living in groups in almost every state of the peninsula. So, who are the Orang Asli of Peninsular Malaysia?
The three main groups that form the Orang Asli, you've got the Senoi, the Proto-Malay, and the Negrito. So each of them have roughly about 6 subgroups each.
That's Kamal Sohaimi Fazil. He's an anthropologist with the Department of Anthropology and Sociology at University of Malaya. Geographically, the communities and their 6 subgroups can be found around the peninsula. The Semang or Negrito, located in the north portion of the peninsula, consist of the Kensiu, Kintak, Jahai, Lanoh, Mendrik, and the Batik. The Senoi in the central region have the Semai, Temia, Jahut, Chewong, Mahmeri, and the Semaburi. And the Proto-Malay in the southern region are made up of the Temuan, Semalai, Jakun, Orang Kanak, Orang Kuala, and Orang Seletar. Each subgroup speaks their own language, practices their own religion, and are mostly self-sustaining.
The Proto-Malays were mostly coastal or riverine communities. The Senois were inland agriculture communities, and then you have the Negritos who were largely hunter and gatherers. Today, it's, you know, if you think about them in those terms, in a way we are romanticizing where they come. A lot of Orang Asli today, they have assimilated into society. They've got education. So to me, everyone's modern.
The Orang Aslis are not against modernization, far from it. So where does this perception come from?
We don't really bring this in our education system. We don't see it in our textbooks, our history textbooks. And when we do mention Orang Asli, we tend to put the guy in a loincloth with a blowpipe, you know. And that stereotypical image just reinforces this idea of them as two-dimensional characters lah. These people who live in the forest and don't really want modernity or are anti-modern and anti-development.
This lack of acknowledgement is directly related to their struggle to maintain their right on ancestral land. In the name of development, many communities have been uprooted from their homes for many reasons, most notably in Malaysia, to build dams, highways to airports, a university, and most recently for logging activities in Gua Musang. In tandem with this pattern of relocation are the many court cases that follow from land disputes between the Orang Asli and developers encroaching on their land. Taking the landmark Sagung Tasi case of 1996 as an example, the pattern of encroachment, marginalization, and subsequent resettlement of their communities can be observed. In this case, the Temuan families were forcibly removed from their home in Kampong Bukit Tampoy in 1995 to make way for the Nilai KLIA highway for the 1998 Commonwealth Games. Pro bono lawyers fought for the Temuans to prove their ancestral rights to the land in 1996, but it would take another 14 years before a settlement of 6.5 million ringgit was agreed upon by the courts. Other cases include the displacement of the Orang Seletar community for the Iskandar Development Corridor in Johor and the Jakun community for the building of the Lingyu Dam. The Orang Asli community does have the right to gazette their land to protect it, but as of 2003, only 15.1% of Orang Asli land is gazetted and protected under the Aboriginal Peoples Act 1954. 22.5% is approved for gazetting, but not gazetted as yet, and 62.5% applied for gazetting, but not approved yet.
they have a claim to a traditional area that is quite large. Well, it's their traditional area. A lot of times I hear people say, why they need so big a land? Their traditional land is their customary area that they have developed over the years. I think we shouldn't question that. Rather, we should maybe, if you want, validate whether it really is customary. Apart from that, it's theirs. I think we need to learn to respect. Yeah, that's it. We need to learn to respect the boundaries that they recognize as part of their customary.
Take a look at our buku sejarah and you'll notice a distinct lack of information on the original people of Malaysia, their contribution to the founders of Malaysia, and towards the protection of our people during the war. It all begins with awareness. If you didn't know about the Orang Asli of Peninsular Malaysia, well, now you know lah.
Okay, what do you think? Interesting. So if before this you don't know about the Orang Asli in Malaysia, now you know. Alright, so to further help us to acknowledge or to be aware of the different ethnics, the different races available or that are present here in Malaysia, whether in the peninsula, a typo over there, it's peninsula, missing the end, or Sabah and Sarawak. So what I want you to do now is, this is sort of, I have mentioned in the beginning, a mini project. So we will be making a scrapbook entitled My Malaysia. So for each week I will give a new topic. Like for example, this week we will it will be on the introduction part. So you will be introducing people to the different ethnics, the different races, the Orang Asli in both Peninsular Malaysia and also Borneo, which is Sabah, Sarawak. So you have to create an information corners according to the topic. You can just write it on a paper. You can draw it if you are good in drawing. You can type it, just like I mentioned. How to write it, up to you. Be creative. You can write an essay, you can write it in point form, however you like. Just make sure that it has all the information needed. You can also have more than one page of information corners. For example, let's say this week is an introduction, so you don't want to only introduce one part or only one topic. Like the ethnics, you want to introduce all the different ethnics and sub-ethnic groups that are there in Malaysia, Sabah and Malaysia, which is Peninsula, Sabah and Sarawak. So you can have more than one page. It's up to you. So yeah, that will be all for this week. For the next lesson, I want you to present your findings, not your findings, like we have learned or we know a bit on the indigenous people of Sabah, Sarawak and also Peninsular Malaysia. I want you to write out a simple conclusion of what you have learned from today's lesson. So I'll see you again later. That will be all. Thank you.